And in particular, with regard to custody cases, it will be the alchemy of a custody case. And basically what that refers to is the concept that when there is tension in something, when there's stress in something, when there's, anxieties involved, depression involved, usually what it is, usually the reason why those stresses and the tenseness and the arguing and the hostilities and everything start, or if you're talking about your own self, why everything starts inside, is because you have a model that you're currently in. So it would be the current state of your custody case, okay? Whether that be not filed yet or just filed and shit's hitting the fan, or it's been going on for 10 years and it really sucks. Whatever that first model is, you have that on one hand. And then on the other hand, you have the model of where you want it to be, your expectation of the case. And like I said, that's with anything, any endeavor in general, either personal development, like whatever. Whenever there is a major conflict between the two of them, where you are and where you want to be, it's going to cause all sorts of shit in your life. Okay. It's going to cause anxieties, panics, stresses, everything, because you're here and you need to be here. But holy shit, I wish I could just snap my fingers and get there. But newsflash, you can't. So when we're looking at in particular, the alchemy, and I could go on this topic forever. And in fact, this is one of the beginning sections of the new program that I'm working on. When we're talking about the alchemy of a custody case, here's what we need to do to not only do our best and everything in our power to get the results that we want, but also to minimize the heartache, the stress, the unhappiness, the depression, that is along the journey. Okay. And what that is basically, there's a few things you need to do. First, what I like to do and what I advise a lot of my private one-on-one coaching clients that I have, or clients that I have, is first map out and define where you are. No, I'm sorry. Map out and define where you want to be first. Map out and define where you want to be. For your case, it would be what schedule you want to have, how you want to feel inside, how you want the exchanges to look, how you want to spend your day, if you're not at the office or working or whatever, how you want to spend your day, the things you want to be doing. Map out the model of what you are trying to achieve in your custody case. And with regard to your custody case, you can make this kind of a few different parts, because let's face it, there's a bunch of different parts involved. First off, like I said, you can map out how you want to feel. You can map out how you want to carry yourself. It's the self portion of it. Map out your model self, how you want to react, how you want to act. The second part would be map out the relationship with your ex. How do you want that to look like? Do you want it to be, a friendly relationship? Do you want it to just be a co-parenting relationship? Do you want it to be as limited as possible? How do you want that to look? The next would be with regard to the actual specific schedule itself. How do you want that to look? Do you want there to be a week on, week off? Do you want it to be weekends? What do you want? What do you want to see happen? And then finally, how you want things to go in court. Okay. So basically what that comes down to is the mindset, the daily routine type stuff for yourself. That's number one. Number two is the relationship and the communication with your ex, how you expect that to look, what you want to achieve in that regard, how you want the schedule, and the relationship with you, your ex, and the children. And then finally, your result in court and how you want court to go. Okay. So that's the first step, is to map those out. And quite honestly, folks, if you can, the more detail you can get into of what you want, the easier it's going to be to either achieve those things or to except where maybe you haven't meant it, right? Because it starts with understanding. So if you map that out in detail, that's step one for each of those. The next step is to then go over to the other side and look at where you are for each of those. How do you feel when you wake up? How are you spending your days? You know, are you tired? Are you stressed? Or you feel like you're going, excuse my language, fucking crazy? What's the relationship like right now with the ex? Are they, you know, is it extremely toxic? Is it okay, but could be better? Define it. The next one is obviously how does it look right now with your schedule? You know, do you guys share custody? Are you getting a couple weekends a month? What does it look like? Explain that. Explain the exchanges. How does that look? All right. And then finally, how have things gone in court? If you're not in court yet, how have things gone so far in your relationship with your attorney? If you don't have an attorney, how have things gone since this case has been filed, right? And then what you do is you look at, you take one of those each, right? One of those 4 prongs that we just talked about on each side. And you look at the current, okay? I don't want to say the realistic, because realistic is a matter of perspective. But you look at the current, and then you look at where the model of is where you want to be, right? And then what you do, what I like to do is I have those on basically like the same piece of paper, or if you're typing it, type it out. But then what you do is you want to have a middle section, and the question would be, what would need to happen to get there? Okay? What would we need to make happen to get there? You can't change or manage or improve anything if you don't record it and if you don't define it. So you will go through each of those portions, each of those points, and do that with each one. Okay. I'll give you an example. You know, you know, your current custody schedule compared to your new one. What would have to change? You got to hit all the points. You got to hit all the points. You know, I would need to make sure that this evidence gets in, right? I would need to be able to control myself a little bit better, so they can't bring up a bunch of shit on me in court. I need to have a better relationship with the judge, you know, and that's not like, I'm not saying to be his or her friend, but I mean, just when you're in court, handle yourself better. But you get my point. You go through every little thing. And this is kind of like the stuff that I work on with people when I work on them one-on-one to try to help them, to try to help facilitate that to get to those goals. And then what happens is once you do that, then you work backwards and you start to basically unravel that plan into your initial steps. And then you work the plan every day. And when you do that, not only are you going to be taking the steps necessary to get to where you want to go, even if you don't get to where you want to go, you're still going to be in a better place because you're making all of those good adjustments and heading down that right path to improve, you know, your level of happiness, your well-being, your success in court, to improve it all, right? And it's so important because we can't just sit around and feel bad and feel pissed and feel sorry and all of that stuff. And I'm certainly not saying that any of you are doing that because obviously, like I always say on these calls, you all freaking took the step of not only, you know, signing up for this program, but taking the time to join these calls. So you obviously give a shit. And to you, it's more than complaining. And that's freaking wonderful, right? But my point is in telling you that even the best of us, like you guys and like me, even the best of us get down. Even the best of us wake up some mornings and just think shit sucks, right? But that doesn't get us anywhere. So the only way we can do that is to have that list, to acknowledge that alchemy and that tension, and to stay focused on it every single day. And like I always say, it might not be to the point where it like like it's certainly not to the point where the negative aspects of it consume your life, like the tension part of it. You don't want that to consuming your life, but you want to focus on where you want to go. Because what happens is where it's a Tony Robbins line, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focusing on where you need to go daily, like I'm talking like literally when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, take a look at it. I used the section about, there was a session about affirmations. Affirmations are huge too. And I'm telling you folks, if you can do that and you can use that alchemy and notice that that's why there's that tension, then it can be fixed. And not only can it be fixed, but you can start to see some really good results, not only in your case, but in your life too. But it's an ongoing process. You know, when the case is done and when you get the result in the case, it's going to be something else.